It's me, the tree guy!
The Lille Regional took place last week, and while there's only around 10% of deck lists posted, I did manage to find a few cheaper lists that did pretty well. Master Yi is still the cheapest and most competitive deck, with the second place deck list costing only $75, while Azir, Victor, and Aurelia are also very competitive, but cost a little bit more at around the $100 range. If you're interested in something a little different though, I found 3 decks that performed very well despite not being considered top meta contenders. All 3 of these decks were also the highest placing for each of their legends. The first deck I want to talk about is Sivir. Most Sivers are playing Dazzling Aurora, which immediately takes this legend out of the budget category. However, this Sivir managed to get 156th out of almost 2,000 players, and it only costs $60. Instead of ramping into Dazzling Aurora, this is an aggro deck that uses early units combined with Boots of Swiftness to try and score both points each turn. The Sivir legend gives you a gold whenever you recycle a rune, which is essential because of how power hungry this deck is. I'm a big fan of this deck because of how it uses the extra power from the Sivir legend to allow it to play 25 cards with power costs. Since cards with power costs are generally stronger than ones without, the deck feels like it's just full of really good cards. If you enjoy playing aggressively and don't mind managing your resources across multiple turns, I think this deck is definitely worth trying. The second deck I want to talk about is Rek'Sai. This Rek'Sai list costs just under $60 and got 34th place. This list is a pretty standard Rek'Sai deck, which means you want to be aggressive and try to conquer at least once each turn so that you can get value off your legend ability. However, the reason this deck list is so much cheaper than other Rek'Sai lists is because it's not playing Seals of Unity. In other decks, the 3 Seals of Unity are more than half the cost of the deck. So it's really cool that this player was able to show that not playing Seals in Rek'Sai is definitely viable. I also like how this player decided to play Darius and Bloodrush instead of Ferris Forerunner, making this list feel a bit more aggressive than other Rek'Sais. The only warning I have for people who might want to play this deck is that sequencing matters quite a bit with Rek'Sai. And between the Rek'Sai legend and the signature spell Void Rush, there's also a decent amount of card selection choices you'll have to make compared to other Order Fury decks. So if you want an aggro deck with a surprising amount of decisions, Rek'Sai might be a good fit for you. The final deck I want to talk about is the highest placing Yasuo. It's a little bit more expensive than the other 2 decks at around $90, but it managed to get 18th place. This deck is pretty similar to Yasuo during the Origins meta, where you use Yasuo's legend ability to get points while keeping your units safe from combat. This version in particular leans much more into movement, opting to play Yasuo Windrider instead of Yasuo Remorseful as the chosen champion. Spiritforged hasn't changed the strategy too much, but it brought a few cards to make the movement strategy stronger. Using Yasuo's legend ability, Stellacorn Herder can often draw you 2 cards while staying relatively safe at your base. In a pinch, Ride the Wind can also get you 2 cards with Stellacorn Herder. The deck also plays Aurelia Fervent, who's just a really good value unit that has synergy with Yasuo's legend ability and a lot of the other cards in this deck. Finally, Heart of Dark Ice is just a better version of Mask of Foresight when you're not trying to hold battlefields. One thing I think is really clever is this deck has the other Yasuo, Yasuo Remorseful, in the sideboard, so that you can side into a more control-oriented playstyle if you need to. The only negative to this deck is that, for a bit more money, you can probably play Aurelia, which is a similar movement-based strategy, but is probably a stronger deck. Still, if you want to play a movement strategy that's not Aurelia, or you can't find Defiant Dance anywhere, I do think this deck has potential. That's it for this one. I hope this can help you guys with some different deck ideas, and let me know in the comments what other decks you think are good on a budget. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like or subscribing for more Riftbound content. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.